what a time to be alive. Wow. So much has happened in the last 48 hours. The Bulls have been more active on the trade market in the last 48 hours than probably the last 5 years combined. So this is a big deal. What's happening today is a big deal, and I think it shouldn't be overlooked that, what I said on Twitter, the most refreshing part about all of this is that they have signaled finally, they understand they're not winning this year. They're not contending for a title this year, which has been one of the most delusional things about this team for the last few years. It's been really hard to stand, kind of being told we're contending, we're practicing continuity, and nothing has actually come of that. So what do? You hit the reset button, you blow it up, fire sale, try to get as much value as you can for your best players, but then take in bad contracts, expiring contracts for picks from teams that are looking to shed some salary. And that's what we've done. You saw it with, Simons is a good example of a guy who's on an expiring contract here. It's going to shed some salary for the Bulls. He might be on the move again. We don't even know. Sending away Saric and Herter for Jaden Ivey. He's a restricted free agent this offseason. He's had kind of a down year. He had an injury last year. Hasn't fully come back from that the way he was as a rookie in his first couple of seasons. But yeah, man, there's a lot. There's so much to get into. So where do we even start? Someone mentioned in the chat, what did we get for Coby? Nothing has happened with Coby yet, but you look at all of these rumors, like every single account that seems to talk about the NBA is out here saying Io and Coby are next. So I'm willing to give them that benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to find my gosh darn notifications here. So much happening. Rar. I saw it from Hoop Legion, I think it was. Hoop Legion. Legion Hoops. Yeah, we got Mike Conley. There's another one to talk about. So yeah, let's go line by line with this. We'll start with Bulls are moving on from Coby White and Io DeSumo. We expect them traded in the next 48 hours. Trade deadline is on Thursday, and it feels like once the seal gets ripped off, once that valve gets opened, the floodgates are, everything's happening today. So, I don't know if this is going to be coming down right to the wire at the end of the trade deadline. It seems like the Bulls are kind of getting a lot of this stuff out of the way right now. So let's go down. Let's look at what so here's the full trade for Ivey. Bulls are going to send Herter and Saric to the Pistons, and then they're going to get back Ivey and Conley. Yeah, man, low risk, extremely low risk trade. I know that Ivey, again, has had injuries. People are concerned about, kind of the career trajectory he's on because it's been mostly downward from where he started. And we're not new to that in Chicago. We've had a lot of guards with that similar kind of story who have injuries, who get hurt, end up not coming back to their full form or taking a couple of seasons to get back to their full form. So I think you have a couple of options here with Ivey. You have the opportunity to potentially get a team-friendly deal to re-sign him. At the same time, you could package him in a different trade to move him again, or you could potentially let him walk in restricted free agency. As we saw last season, restricted free agency is way more stingy than it used to be in the past. Teams are not just throwing out poison pill contracts like they used to. And for a guy that, is looking to kind of revitalize his career in Ivey, that's what you want on a bad team, right? For the Bulls, it's like, we're not trying to win games the rest of this season. Let Ivey play. Let us see, what he's got. And, if it doesn't look great, maybe the Bulls just give him kind of a mid-tier offer and nobody matches it, or nobody tries to sign him to an offer sheet. There's no reason to match. And, maybe he sticks around as a bench piece. For Conley, I think, is a little more interesting. I think Conley, to me, veteran player, one of the longest tenured NBA players still left in the game. And he's not going to want to stick around in Chicago playing for a shitty team this season. I can guarantee you that. I'm sure there is another team out there that would be willing to give Conley a shot, kind of similar to how we cut Javon Carter and kind of gave him a shot to go find another team. I feel like Conley could be a candidate for that as well. And also just the direction, the trajectory that the Bulls are headed. Conley doesn't really align. You love the idea of having a veteran presence. He's one of the great players of our time, but yeah, I don't think one of the good players of our time. I don't think he's long for the Bulls. I don't think he's going to stick around. But we'll see what ends up happening with that. If they do end up trading Coby, Ayo, and or Trey, that's so many guards, man. Got so many guards. Then yes, you would need to keep, like a fourth guard on the roster around. At the same time, though, like it really doesn't seem like a big deal to just cut him. Expiring contract again, that money's going to come off the books anyway. Seems to me like Conley is a pretty good bet to get waived. At first I was kind of leaning more towards him sticking around because of Giddey's injury and everything. But now with everything else going on, now we're trading Vucevic for Anthony Simons and a second round pick. So we sent out a second and got a second back, it looks like. I'd love to know more about that. Interesting. I wonder if there's any protections or anything on those picks. But yeah, so Celtics were in the mix for Vucevic like last year in the offseason. I remember there was some rumors about that. And I always kind of felt like that would be a fit, honestly. It seems like they're the type of team that could get the most out of a player like Vooch. And, Boston, a winning franchise. It's good for him. Hopefully he gets to, play in like a meaningful playoff series before he retires. Good for Vooch, man. We have told this story so many times about like, it's time to move on from Vooch. It's time to get what you can get. And that's what they did. They got what they could get. Simons again is going to be expiring this offseason. I think he's around 27 million, if I recall correctly. Let's see. So yeah, actually not terribly different from Vooch's contract, but yeah, so like 27 million, going to be an unrestricted free agent for Simons this offseason. And again, that is a potential trade piece to move to another team that might be contending and might want to bring in Simons and potentially re-sign him. Or you just let him walk in the offseason and you shed that money. Now you have that cap space to go make moves elsewhere. So that's kind of the recap of where we're at, where we're headed. I foresee at least another trade. They got to do something about all these guards, right? Like, got like 10 guards on the roster right now, something crazy. Wrong one. We got like a bunch of guards, Bulls roster. Let's see if any of these are updated for the trade. Probably not. Probably not. Oh, okay. We got Conley on ESPN. Let's see. And so, okay, yeah. So ESPN is updated for the most recent trades. So let's look. Yeah, you got one true center in Ulbrich, but Smith plays center. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 8 guards on the roster still. Got to do something about that. Tonight the Bulls are playing a game in Milwaukee, and I made a joke that like maybe they're on the team bus right now and things are getting a little awkward. But what I think is more important and probably funnier, the idea of amassing as many picks and as much draft capital, just as many assets as we can fucking grab and stash from the rest of the NBA this afternoon, like literally before the game starts tonight. So when we get up to Milwaukee, we can be like, hey, for you, take. Can leave Jalen Smith there. You could probably leave Coby White there. Maybe Ivey too. I don't know. Then you try to get Giannis. I don't know. I would love the idea that the Bulls are loading up right now to go for one of these guys like Giannis. Because before, a couple days ago, I didn't really think that they had anything worthwhile that could match. Like the Timberwolves are talking about trading McDaniels. The Knicks were talking about trading Cat. Like the Bulls don't have those kind of trade packages for Giannis. But now they're kind of making some moves. They're grabbing some stuff from different places, putting it together, and maybe they could put together a package that could entice one of these. Well, I guess for Giannis, it would have to really be a big one, a big winner. A really nice trade package. But I also mentioned Zion as another option, that maybe they're loading up to make a run at Zion, which is, again, before that was something that I was unsure about. I wasn't sure about the idea of trading a bunch of first-round picks for one of these players. But now you have all of these other assets. You can kind of build out the rest of the trade. It doesn't have to only be like 3 players and, 5 picks or some crazy thing like that. I think it's not great for our chances that we helped the Timberwolves clear some cap space by taking on Conley, and they didn't take anything back. According to the rumors, right, there's going to be a ton of rumors today. According to the rumors that we've heard, the Timberwolves had an opportunity to take on Coby White and declined. So they're making a run for Giannis. That's obviously their goal. I don't think that that's going to help us in any way. The Jazz making that trade, sending 3 first-round picks for Jaren Jackson Jr., that doesn't really help us either. That's a steep price to pay for a player who is far below the level that Giannis is at. So some good, some bad, some hot, some cold. But I think the headline really is the Bulls have finally admitted that they are not going to be a contending team. And they're operating the way that a bad team should. They're going to take on some bad contracts. They're going to take on some draft picks. They're going to take on some players who, they're going to buy low on some players, because that's what you do when you're not. I mean, truthfully, when you're not a good team, you don't have you have the leeway, rather, I should say. You have the leeway to be kind of bad the rest of this season, with the understanding that we want to get a good draft pick in the lottery. So you take on those, buy low players who don't have a lot of time left on their contract, low money, low risk, and you see what happens, man. You see what happens. You see how the rest of the season plays out. You try to lose as many games, and then you get to the draft. And there is a chance that the Bulls have 2 first-round picks in this draft. Not only 2 first-round picks, there is a chance that one of them could be a top 4 pick if we continue down this road. So, this is a lot to feel good about. Mentioned in the chat, if Bulls land Giannis, Ross might change his handle back to Arturis fan club. AK is trying to win you back. He's trying to win all of us back, guys. And you know what? This was something that came up earlier today about how, did AK finally learn how to make some trades? I think what we're seeing, again, is the change in mindset and the change in direction. In a vacuum, a lot of the trades that AK has made, they haven't been bad for what they were trying to do at that time. Trading Giddey or trading for Giddey, that ended up working out. That wasn't a bad trade. At the time, it felt like they could have gotten more value for Caruso had they moved him at the trade deadline. You could say the same thing for Lonzo Ball. It felt like they waited a little bit too late to trade him. DeRozan, same thing. Levine, same thing. But those individual trades weren't necessarily bad. They got us to this point. It was just the direction. They were trying to win. They were trying to contend. So they weren't selling. They weren't blowing up. They weren't trading, their players when they were playing their best. Because that's what you do when you read the writing on the wall. If you have a couple of players that are playing at a high level, but you're not actually going anywhere with them, you try to maximize that value and sell high. That's what the Bulls haven't done in the past. Now, we finally dropped the bit. We dropped the act. We know that we're not contending. We know that we're not practicing continuity anymore. Continuity is not going to bring us anything. So we have the opportunity now to make some actually good trades for what we're trying to do. So I think that is the biggest thing that we can give AK credit for right now. What's up, Skokes? That's one of the big things that we can give AK credit for right now, I think, is aligning the vision of the team with, what reality says and what fans have been wanting for a long time. Fans aren't always right, of course, But this is beyond that. This is reality. You know, this is a team that has been in the play-in year after year. This is a team that was headed to the same record that they had last season. Now things are looking a little bit different, man. Things are looking like we could genuinely get one of these top picks, get one of these really, really good players that are coming out in the draft this year. Really, really good year for the top of the lottery. Things do fall off a little bit, I've heard, once you get past, you know, like the top 10 or so. But that top 10, there's going to be some really good picks in there. That Levine $200 million. Yeah, you know what? Not our problem anymore. Not our fucking problem anymore. Kings are making weird trades, trading Keon Ellis. I don't know what's going on over there. Not our problem anymore. I don't think we're getting Giannis. I think it's more likely we get Cat from the Knicks. That is an interesting. That's an interesting one. We've heard a lot about Zion. Obviously, we've heard about Giannis. Cat has been in, you know, a little bit of trade rumors, a little bit of rumblings the last couple of weeks. If that ended up coming to fruition, if the Bulls traded for Cat, I wouldn't necessarily be upset about it, but I would kind of go back to that conversation of direction and, you know, the trajectory of the team, because I would feel like kind of going down the same road as Vucevic, right? And when we traded for Vuce, we traded what, like 3 firsts to get him. Can't do that. Can't trade 3 firsts for Cat. Can't go down that road again. Dude's a good player. Dude's a really good player, but not going to be the franchise cornerstone that we're looking for, that we want to get in the draft. And speaking of Cat, I brought this up this morning with the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade, but for the Jazz, that kind of reminds me of the Vooch trade for us. Only coincidental that Markkanen was on both of the teams when it happened. But, like when we traded for Vooch, it was to make a splash, to get back really into the game, to kind of signal to other teams that we were for real and we were serious about making moves. Giving the team kind of that big hub to revolve around. We had those young guards. Levine was younger. Coby was just coming into the league. So back then, you saw the picture, you saw the vision, but I think we've learned from that. I hope we've learned from that. I've definitely learned from that. And when I saw the Jazz sending those 3 firsts for Jaren Jackson Jr., I did kind of have a bit of that, like, ooh, they might regret that in a couple years. That might come back to bite them pretty soon. Enough on that, though. Would you want Ja Morant? Probably not. I don't think that would be good for the direction that we're headed. That seems more like a distraction than anything. Ja's a good young player, but he comes with certain baggage because of the way, his career has gone. He has had serious injuries as well. And I don't think we need that kind of drama or baggage. And, to kind of put it bluntly, I don't know why he would want to come here either. Like, you're sick of playing with the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, by the way, are executing a great rebuild. They're following the Thunder's playbook and kind of jealous of what they're doing. But yeah, if you're fed up with the Grizzlies, like, why do you think the Bulls would be better? Because of the gun game here. Yeah, I mean, if that's what you care about as Ja Morant, then, get like a summer home in Chicago. But don't play for the Bulls. One second, texted. It's crazy that Kenny had that Vooch one before Shams. Kenny works for like NBC and ESPN now. He's like hanging out with Vince Carter and shit. Like, he's probably hearing all these rumors just like at work, doing stuff, preparing for his show. It's like, here's a bunch of shit going on. That's so cool though. We're happy for our guy. Let's see. Who is our starting center? Lachlan Ulbrich, baby. Truthfully, it's going to be Patrick Williams tonight because he's been starting at center lately. So prepare yourself for that. But again, like, right now we want to lose. So this is good. We are getting assets for the players that have some value. We want to lose. So Patrick Williams at center, probably going to lose. Yeah, I posted that. No complaining when we're losing a bunch of games over the next few weeks. This is the most exciting time to be a Bulls fan in a minute because we're loading up a new era. And someone says, I don't really trust this front office to usher in this new exciting era that you speak of, just saying. And that's totally fair. That's totally valid. I mean, we can't predict the future. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm just excited about the fact that they're finally aligned with reality right now. And, you know, they've admitted at least that this team isn't working. So that's refreshing. That feels good. I'm going to give them credit for that. We criticize these guys when they make poor moves. Let's give them a little bit of credit when, you know, they do something that's worthwhile and that we've been asking for. But it's not enough. There's more. There still needs to be more. Casey said, yeah, I mean, they're going to say they're not tanking. I understand that. I hear that. I see that. I know that that's what they say because they can't come out and say that they're tanking. But, like, I mean, look at the moves. Like, they're 8 guards heavy. Sure, they're going to go out and get another center. But they traded Vucevic, who has been their guy. Like, Vuce has been their, like, pet project since he came here. AK and Vooch are like best buddies in the offseason or something. They're texting each other about how he's not going anywhere and they want him to stick around. So, like, I get what people are saying. The Bulls aren't tanking, but this is tanking. This is what it looks like in practice. And KC, I love KC. He's great at his job. To be blunt, he works for CHSN, which is owned by the Bulls. So he's not going to come out and say that the Bulls are tanking either. But it's good that the Bulls could be losing more games in the near future. What about Allen from the Cavs? They're a second apron team. Yeah, but that contract though. That contract though. 32 million until 2029. That contract though. I don't know about that. That is a lot of money. I think at that point I would rather go for Zion, honestly. What is his contract? That's right up there. Yeah, 39. Yeah, that's big. Ooh, that's pretty big. I don't like either of those. I don't like those contracts at all. You think Simon's better than Coby? Yeah, Simon's better than Coby. But again, a free agent this offseason, probably. I mean, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen the last half of the season. Maybe the Bulls and Simons find a pairing that works for them and they want to keep that marriage together. I feel like Simons is more of a salary shedding kind of move. They did Vuce a solid by sending him to a contending team. They got back a pick. They're going to be able to shed salary with an expiring contract. Yeah, Supernatural, I'm with you, man. No NBA team can say out loud that they are tanking. Obviously, they're not going to say that to the media, most importantly. So I think this is closer, at least, to what we've wanted. And I've said it already, there needs to be more. But this is a lot closer to where we've wanted to be than where we have been. Bro, 24-27 isn't a tanking record. Right. They have not been fully tanking. They have not gone full in on the tank. And I think you're going to see them be a lot worse now. I mean, we've seen it the past week where, like, they're sitting guys for rest. They sat Vooch for rest the other night. He ended up getting traded today. I don't know. Like, you blow up a team when you're ready to lose. So that I'm just taking, the tea leaves for what they are, not trying to read too far into it, not trying to make my own assumptions. I'm just seeing the fact that they are blowing up the core, and that signals to me they're trying something different. They're hitting reset. So yeah, Simons is definitely a better player than Coby. But he might be due for a bigger contract this offseason himself. And, that's back to that Ivey question of, like, if you're going to try to pay Ivey as an RFA, as a restricted free agent, you need to see something from him this season. I pulled up some Ivey highlights. We could look at those together. Let's look up some Ivey highlights. These are from 24-25 though. Before the injury, but we need to see some stuff from recent from this season. Don't think the Bulls are blowing up the team. My guy, they already did. They already started. They already kind of started it. It started last season. They dragged this out much longer than it had to be. But like you look at the return on the Levine trade because they just sent Herter out. That's like Ivey is part of the Levine trade now. It's like this is part of the blow up. This is still part of the rebuild. They just been stretching that thing out. Don't screen record that. Fuck. 10 points, 2 assists, 1 steal. That's not a great. It's not great. Let's see. Blowing up means giving away players to tank. I mean, what do you think the idea is behind taking on, like a bad contract, like what they were doing with Saric originally before trading him out, like taking on a contract before, or taking on a contract for picks.
And right now, Milwaukee's doing
like that's
exactly
what a bad team does.
To do in that zone.
A bad team takes on a contract with picks. He looks a lot slower than I remember.
Exactly what they're supposed to do.
Did anyone else notice that?
They are rebounding out of it.
Damn, man, I remember him having like an explosion at to the rim. That's a little discouraging. Yeah, Ivey's on a minutes restriction. Miguel, what's up? Hearing they're going to trade for a big man now. That is what everyone seems to be saying. That's what the rumblings are right now. I would love for it to be a young player. I would love for it to be a player on an expiring contract. I think that would be awesome. What's up? If you can't see that another trade is coming, crazy. I think we're all saying that. I don't know who isn't saying that. Everybody seems to be agreeing that there's more trades coming. Which is, it's part of the blow up. I think Io might be on the move. We saw that report from Legion Hoops. They said Coby and Io are going to be gone. I think Io is your most valuable asset right now. So if they trade Io, then we can all put the conversation to rest. They're definitely tanking. Okay, someone mentioned in the chat, imagine P. Will is shipped. So what I was thinking, if you really want to get out of Patrick Williams' contract, maybe you package him with Io or with Coby, try to get a team to bite on, the value of that player, and kind of force them to take Patrick's contract along with them. That would be a worthwhile use of that trade, of an Io or Coby trade, would be to try to get out of that Patrick Williams contract. Let's see. Might try to trade some of the guards they received for Towns. Yeah, we talked about Cat already a little bit. I guess a lot of this comes down to which guards get traded. Because I felt like if they could get Giannis and they could keep Io, obviously, and Matas, Matas is going to be a part of any package for a player like Giannis, for like a top 5, top 10 player. They're going to ask for your best young prospect. But if you could find a way to keep Matas and keep Io, like that's an amazing get. Like that would be an amazing trade. So I would feel similarly about Cat. Like if you were able to get Cat and keep Io, that could work. You've got to offset some of those defensive deficiencies. Let's see. AK don't tank. He retools. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what the full retool looks like, but like they're getting, I guess the thing I got to keep coming back to is that they're getting worse. They're already a bad team. They are now getting worse. Like Vooch, for all of his faults, for all of his ups and downs, he was one of their best players. So, I mean, deciding to finally trade Vooch, at least for the second half of this season, guys, for next season, things might be a little bit different. And, that's where some people start bringing up Anthony Davis. Like maybe you want to trade for AD for the future, for next season, because you are tanking this season. That's an option. That's an idea. I wouldn't be opposed to that if the idea is like you're punting the second half of this season with the idea of having cap space this offseason, bringing back a really talented center from injury. Who knows if he's actually coming back from injury. But, like that's one of the avenues. That's one of the options. Phenom Luke waiting to see if Coby is scratched from the game tonight. I think that should also be telling who plays tonight and who doesn't. People said the other day when Vooch got sat for rest, it's like the trade's coming. And here we are. It ended up happening. I know that Casey tweeted something about, what was it? Someone was sitting for like trade pending. Oh, I can't find it now. But yeah, we'll see what the, oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, Nikola Vucevic trade pending. I truly do wonder if he was on that bus when the trade went through. You package with Io. I don't think you can package him with Coby. Io is the biggest value for sure. Giddey, Modest, and Io are your core. So I definitely want to see those guys stay. If you get a really good return for Io, like if someone gives you a really good trade offer for Io, I don't think you can say no. But yeah, I think you have a core now. And, you know, I see some people saying that they don't feel like this is signaling that the Bulls are tanking. But, you know, I don't think that this signals that they're going to re-sign Simons or they're going to, I mean, maybe make a run at Giannis or make a run at Zion for sure. But, like, this season, you know, the idea is still trying to clear up cap space for this offseason. That's still part of the goal of what they're doing right now. So, you know, I don't think these moves are completed, and I don't think we can make a full statement like what's going to happen next off of these moves just so far. I feel like, though, it's refreshing because it feels finally like, you know, they've hit that reset button and they've decided to move on from the team that we had sat and watched for years, begging for them to do just anything, like do something. They're doing something that's worthwhile. We're putting Dario up in the rafters. He's a Bulls legend for life. Thank you for everything, Dario. We'll never forget your amazing 48 hours with the Chicago Bulls. Kat, Simons is young. Yeah, Simons is pretty young, but I feel like he's going to want a bigger contract this offseason. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm probably going to have to sit back. Like, I'm probably going to have to do another one of these. I fully imagine this was like part one of the trade deadline reactions, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some more crazy shit going on. Coby seems like a lock. I'm willing to go that far. It seems like a lock that Coby gets traded. And, you know, whatever comes of that, I guess will be indicative of what the actual, you know, trajectory is going to be. If they're looking for an expiring contract, then yeah, you know, they're probably tanking. If they're looking for a Zion kind of player, I think they're retooling for the future. That doesn't mean they're not tanking the rest of this season, though. Like, I really want to make sure that we're clear on that. Like, just because they're retooling for the future does not mean they're not going to try to be in the lottery this season. I already think they've been making some decisions that kind of like make you scratch your head, like the Patrick Williams at center. Some of the rotational decisions we've seen from Billy Donovan, kind of holding Io back in certain respects. You know, not making him the sixth man when, you know, like we've had some injuries this season to guards like Coby, Trey. Like you're having Herter come off of the bench first instead of Io. Like just strange decisions this season that make me feel like, you know, this isn't a team that is fully serious about winning. And again, they can't like actively tank. They can't come out and be like, we're bad, let's be bad. But they can make bad decisions in the moment and lose some games. And that's kind of what they've done. Duke, what's up, Dan? Duke fan for life. Do you think they'll get Coach Shire? Absolutely not. I think you can rest easy. That's not happening. What happened with Kuminga? Is he still available? I think we don't want Kuminga. I think we don't want him. I think we have tried to we've tried to figure out a trade with the Warriors, and we just never made it work. It seems like, you know, the Bulls had been talking to the Warriors at the very least since last year's trade deadline, maybe even longer, about Vucevic. There were talks about Caruso before him. And, you know, Kuminga was always involved in those discussions. And it still hasn't happened. I feel like Kuminga, his market is really dry right now. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit behind on the chat. Might as well sign James Wiseman once we buy out Conley. I mean, bro, like, I think they're going to have to probably sign a buyout player or two off of the buyout market here when the trade deadline ends. Like the trade deadline is going to come and go, and I don't think that'll be all of our moves. You know, like I think there will be other moves that come in the buyout market. Maybe we buy out a player and then sign one of the players who got bought out from another team. That could be a good way to get like a backup center, to get some center depth without having to give up any assets. But yeah, it is looking like Coby and Io are kind of the odd men out right now. Let's go Zach Collins, ship him out. Always hurt. Yeah, dude, I've really lost a lot of faith in Zach Collins. It sucks because I was really excited about him. You know, when we saw the brief, you know, stints that we got to see last season, he looked good. It looked like he was a dude who could really, you know, provide some value on both ends and, you know, potentially push Vucevic out of the starting lineup, which it fucking happened anyway, so whatever. But yeah, he's just not reliable. He can't stay healthy. Collins is expiring too, bro. We have so much cap space that's going to be opening up. So you don't necessarily need to trade Collins. That could be one of your buyout candidates, right? Like if you feel like he's taking up a roster spot and you want a big man who's actually going to be available, there's a buyout candidate right there. Still happy about trading Levine last year. I think the Levine trade continues to age well. We were concerned at the onset. It looked bad. The idea of only getting one first round pick and it's your first round pick sounded silly, but in retrospect, you know, it has kind of worked out for the best. I love Jalen Smith. I'm with you, Luke. I would like Jalen Smith to stick around. I know that some teams have been calling the Bulls about him. If you believe the rumors, you know, Smith has some value. So, you know, another guy that you could get a draft pick for maybe like a first with heavy protections or like a nice second rounder from a bad team. But I would rather keep him, honestly. Like he's on a pretty low deal. I'd rather him stick around personally. Dan, why on the Coach Shire stuff, saw the rumor, trying to find somebody to answer your question. All right, let's break this one down too. So 2 years ago, 2 off seasons ago, the Bulls gave Billy Donovan a contract extension. The current G League coach for the Chicago Bulls affiliate, the Windy City Bulls, is also Billy Donovan. It's his son. They've also given contract extensions to Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley. All signs point to the fact that these guys really fucking love each other. And from what I can tell, they're kind of, I hate this word, grooming, but, you know, preparing the younger Billy Donovan in the G League to maybe eventually take over for his dad when his dad retires at the NBA level. So I don't see them going for any coach, let alone, you know, probably one of the most sought after in college basketball. I just don't see it. It wouldn't align with everything else that they've done recently. So I just don't see them moving on from Billy Donovan. Like you see what they're doing with the roster. Clearly they think there's a bigger issue with the roster than the coaching staff. So that's kind of why I say, you know, I kind of shut that down immediately. It just seems like that's a non-starter for this team. They're really, really invested in the Donovan family. What would be a good return for Coby? I think a first with limited protections, maybe lottery protected. You probably aren't going to get an unprotected first. Maybe you could try to coax like a top 4, top 5 protection out of a team. But I think realistically, it's probably like a top 10 protected pick, lottery protected pick, that kind of thing. And another player, you know, you got to match salary, obviously, but yeah, you know, it's hard to say. Like, do you want another young player, you know, like a Jaden Ivey or like an Anthony Simons, or, you know, are you going to be able to coax a young player from another team, or do you want an expiring contract? And do you want to just shed that salary, try to bring in a draft pick? We'll see. We will see. Jarrett Allen to the Bulls. You know, looking at the contract, it's not as bad as Zion's, but I still feel like it's a pretty steep contract for a guy who has had a lot of struggles. You know, with a team that's good, that contract takes him to age 30. Jared Allen, that is. Like, he's been on a team that has been good the last few seasons. They shouldn't want to trade their center. Like, that's a bad sign to me. And I know they have Mobley. I understand all the things that go on there, but like, to me, that's not a great sign. Allen should be like one of the franchise cornerstones there. At least that's what I had imagined, a couple of years ago. And I am surprised. I didn't realize he was going to be 30 in 2 years. I'd probably pass on Allen. What centers are available? We know about Kessler. Remains to be seen if they're going to keep Kessler or trade Nurkic. Something like that. They've got to do something. They have so many bigs. The Jazz, that is. Let's see. Who else has been on the trade rumor mill for centers? Nobody that we would probably want to target. I think Kessler, like, you could target Kessler. I think that's a good player to target, but nobody that you would want to give up your own picks for, I don't think. Like, that is the big thing. Going back to the conversation of, like, are they tanking? Are they retooling? Bringing picks back. That is the sign of a team that understands that their window is not right now. Trading away picks, like what the Jazz did, that was something, I had the question why the Jazz were doing that. You're trading away picks to make a win now move when you're not a win now team. So short of getting a top 5 player like Giannis, I don't want the Bulls to be trading a bunch of first round picks. They should be amassing those picks. They should be acquiring those picks, not trading those away. That's my personal opinion. So, I mean, that's the same thing with Cat. Like, I wouldn't want them sending 3 first round picks to get Cat. I wouldn't like that either. Drummond, the rebound machine. I love Drummond. I'm not going to lie. I know some people got annoyed with him. I fucking love the guy. He's funny. He has a good attitude. And he can do some things that other human beings cannot do, which is impressive. Does make some bad decisions. Maybe Zubats. Yeah, if Harden gets moved, Clips might blow that thing up. That's a good point. Bro, you have to imagine, like, right now, AK is on the phone talking about all this shit. And again, I'm going to go back to, like, my point of why I think this is different and why it feels refreshing. Because it seems like they're active, bro. It seems like they're on the phone. It seems like they're trying. They weren't doing that the last few seasons. So that's a good feeling. And that is the sign of a team that at least is trying something different. It remains to be seen if different is going to be better. But for now, it's a good, refreshing change of pace. I was hoping something would break while I was on the stream here, but nothing yet. What a time, though. What a day. AK hasn't fully instilled or reinforced my trust in him. I'm not back to, like, AK fan club or anything like that. But yeah, it's reality. That's really what it is. It's coming to grips with reality. It's like, I don't want to get political on here, but it's like just admitting what's in front of you, being honest about what you see in front of you. I'll leave it at that. Bulls are being a little more honest about the team. That's important. Man, we're 45 minutes in. I have not eaten any food yet today, if you guys can believe that. I need to go make some dinner real quick. And then I can hop back on if there's more stuff going on tonight. We still have a game to play. Isn't that crazy to think about? Bulls are going to have to, like, turn off replies for all of their next few tweets until all of these trades get finalized. Because everybody, like, all of the replies for every single tweet, Instagram post, whatever, anything the Bulls post right now, all of the replies are just going to be like, talk about the trades. Trade for Giannis. Who won't be playing tonight. Be interesting to see what that conversation, turns to. Like, if Giannis got traded during the game while we're in Milwaukee, that would be insane. That'd be nuts. I'll put that out in the universe in case I can come back and clip it and look like a genius. But, like, if the Bulls traded for Giannis while in Milwaukee, it'd make a lot of sense, right? Get all these assets together, get your shit in order on a Tuesday afternoon, and then drive up to Milwaukee, be like, all right, where's Giannis? Let me at him. Get on the bus, baby. You're coming back with us. Guys, I just want to say, you know, we're not all going to agree on everything. I have my opinions. You guys have your opinions, but I do love having the opportunity to talk about the Bulls, talk about sports, get on here and chat with you guys. It truly is like one of my favorite things that I get to do in my life is like discuss basketball, give my thoughts, hear what other people are thinking. I mean, what more can you ask for, man? This is what it's all about. It's one of the most exciting times of year, you know, up there with free agency. It's like everything is crazy. There's so much shit going on. And I just really enjoy being here and doing it with you guys. So thank you to everyone who joined the stream. Thank you to anyone who watches this replay later. I'm Ross. You can follow me at ChiSportsRoss on all the platforms. Always following the Bulls, always tracking what's going on in Chicago. Twitter tends to be my primary platform, but don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube too. And I'm also on Twitch, so check that out. Thanks again, guys. I will talk to you again very soon. Let's see what happens tonight. Go Bulls!